Baweep, Grana, Weep, Nidibong, fellow inhabitants of the universe, inorganic and organic alike. Let's not discriminate too much. I am Papatron, the concerned alien parent, and today I'm going to talk to you about they're toys. No, they're figurines. They're toys. No, they're highly posable and transformable figurines. Toys. That's called a toy. I love how Transformers at Hasbro make all these toys. It's something I hear often when I introduce people to the franchise. It is actually the other way around. The toy lines were assembled first from a whole bunch of smaller ones, some individual toys were brought off other markets, and that is how we got Generation 1. I would get into the history of the toys, but there are YouTubers who have done a much better job than I ever could, so I'm going to post some links in the description. In fact, so much of Transformers have been influenced directly by toy sales that it became one of the biggest, if not the main factor, in how the franchise evolved and changed. In 1986, the movie was primarily made to explain the gap between the toy lines. While the original lines with Optimus Prime and Megatron were discontinued, and who were these Rodimus and Galvatron that all of a sudden took center stage. Transformers Zone did not do very well, and by that we mean in toy sales. The cartoon itself is decent enough, but because the toy sales were plummeting, instead of seeing airtime on the TV, the series was released to DVD instead. Characters that sell most toys get more attention, obviously. Look at Optimus Prime as an example. Go to the Transformers wiki page, TF Wiki, link in the description below, and look at just how many toys were made for him ever since his debut. The only two other characters I can think of that had as many toys, if not even more, are Mickey Mouse and Barbie. Armada's primary focus was to sell a new line of collectible minicons that you could swap between other toys in the same vein. Perhaps the more recent Combiner Wars would serve as a better example. Not only did Combiner Wars toys receive a mini-series, a comic book set, but also incorporated it into numerous games and new additions to the Just Out group. Hasbro's distinguishing feature is that they always tried new things and gimmicks. Swappable heads, engines, turning into weapons, multiple forms, combiners, becoming upgrades. The list just goes on and on. These sometimes individualized but more often group-specific specialties really helped stand some characters out in the minds of the fans. Some made it big in sales and significant to the overall story and progression of the franchise. Others, unfortunately, not so much. I'm very happy to see that to this day, Hasbro pushes themselves with new projects and ideas. Case in point, the Chaos Bringer himself, Unicron. There's always been attempts at making a toy for Unicron ever since his first appearance in 1986, Transformers the movie. But only during Armada's run did they finally manage to bring the Devourer to the shelves and into our homes. In 1987, there was Fortress Maximus, a massive toy, wildly popular to this day, that collectively blew our minds. In 2013, Hasbro released the single biggest figure they ever made up to that point, the one and the only Metroplex. That 2 feet high marvel still adorns my shelf. In 2012, Hasbro did it yet again by releasing the monstrous Triptychon with a new set of gimmicks. I love that toy, and my kids can't stop playing with it either. Imagine the amount of time, effort, resources, and design that went into these toys to be distributed on a mass production commercial level. If that is not at least impressive, I don't know what is. There is one more project to talk about, but I will save the best for last. I love a lot of the toy lines they made. Some were pretty decent, some were okay, others were, without a doubt, caught above the rest. The original Generation 1 line is one of the most sought after to this day. Fans are willing to dish out a crazy amount of money for them. If you don't think that Transformers toys don't cost a lot, take a look at the original Starsaber. The original Starsaber is the single most expensive Transformers toy that I'm aware of, that racks up at over $2,000 US. Let's take a short break and we'll be back right after these messages. It's the morning. You just woke up and you have to roll for initiative. That first roll will determine how the rest of your day goes. Do you keep failing the rolls every day? How many times did it feel like you rolled a 1? Well, no more. With D20 coffee, you don't need to worry. It will be like you rolled a 20 every time, every day. The people behind this product proudly stand for maximum quality and guaranteed satisfaction while bringing you great variety at affordable prices. No matter what bean it is or how you want it, you can rest assured it will be done to the highest standards and handled with the greatest of care. All you have to do is go to the shop section, select your desired brew, indicate whether you want whole bean or ground, and your quantity. Before you know it, you'll have a new fantastic way to improve your day. Be sure to check out their Facebook and Instagram pages. They love memes, and so do we. Don't forget to join their mailing list to get the latest scoops on upcoming sales, hottest coffee trends, and new arrivals. But wait, there's more! Apply the coupon code Papatron, and not only will you get a discount, you will also help support my channel. And remember, if it is not from D20 Brewers, it might as well be in the sewers. That's www.d20brewers.com. 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 And now, let's get back to the video. Generations and Universe were also very popular as they gave us new, more modernized designs and brought back a lot of the characters we love. Car robots, or Transformers in disguise, were flying off the shelves. The combination of new and old really clicked with the fans, so Hasbro ended up making toys for characters in that universe that never even made an appearance in the cartoon. Beast era lines became iconic and defining portions of a lot of fans' childhoods. Combiner Wars flew off the shelves faster than I could even spot and buy any of my own. The toy lines made for the video games, War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, became so popular that there is now a third party that designs toys specifically in that style, and they sell like crazy. Titan's Return and Power of the Primes really made it big too. Shelves were cleared within days of them hitting the stores. Toy lines designed for Prime and IDW saw some really good success. They made some really legitimately good toys. Combiner Wars was the last line I spent over $200 on, and mainly for two reasons. 1. Space. My wife, 3 kids, and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. We desperately need to upgrade. We already have too much stuff for the amount of space we have. And number 2, finances. Due to various reasons, the toys became more expensive, so a good portion of them became unattainable for me due to budgeting and timing. I really wish I did have the income and the space to afford them all, especially because Titan's Return featured some of my most favorite characters. Power of the Primes introduced even more combining toys. I want to have the entire studio collection, so on and so forth. Now, let's talk about some of the toys that I was hesitant to buy. I'm very picky about the toys I want, and the way I decide whether I want to buy it or not hinges on quite a lot of factors. I want the robot mode to look at least decent. Something I like to see on the screen should be something that I see in the toy, at least to some significant degree. The op mode, the same deal. Cartoon accuracy specifically is a pretty major factor for me. I want a connection with that character. It doesn't matter if they're quirky or strong or significant to the story, I want to relate to that character. I want to get emotionally invested into that character and their story. Without that connection, why should I even bother getting the toy to begin with? The entire point of the media portion of the franchise is to create those ties. It's all about story, story, story. Always about story. You want to write a story for these characters. not to write them into a story. I also want a satisfying transformation sequence. This one is a little harder to define, I will be 100% honest, because it can vary from toy to toy or line to line. I guess above all else, it has to be intuitive, as in, alright, I can see how this makes sense, or wow, if I spend a little bit of time on this, I can figure this out on my own, kind of like a puzzle, or wow, all of this fits really well together. Sizing is another factor that I consider. It's not necessarily a big one for me, but I will talk about it in more detail in the next video, where I will be talking specifically about third-party toys. Robots in Disguise was a line that I never quite got into. It was a combination of money issues and transformation sequences. I did not quite find the process satisfactory. That is an issue that my wife and I started running into more so when Hasbro started releasing toys that had 2 to 5 transformation steps. The reason why I'm going to say what I'm about to say, that it's kind of selfish of my wife and me to want very complicated transformation sequences. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Robots in Disguise was made for a very different age group. It wasn't made for adults. Let's take Rescue Bots as an example. We love the cartoon to bits. In our opinion, that cartoon easily goes into the best Transformers media made to this day. The toys had super easy transformation sequences ranging from single step to 3 steps. My 2-year-old son and my 5-year-old daughter absolutely love playing with them, major factor being that they can transform them very easily. Rescue Bots were not made for an adult audience, it was made for kids. Would it make sense to make toys with 15 or more transformation steps for Rescue Bots? Absolutely not. The cartoon is aimed at a much younger audience whose focus is more so on play than display. So it only makes sense that Hasbro would make easy to transform toys for the target audience. Us wanting more complex toys that aren't even aimed at us is, I guess, rather selfish, I have to say, but there's also an element of us wanting these characters in a more complex display manner, but I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see how this goes. At the end of the day, I have to give Hasbro kudos for making these toys so simple to play that my kids choose them over almost all other toys. They play with them almost all the time, and transformation from robot to vehicle and vice versa is a huge part of their fun time. Same goes for Robots in Disguise. It is not as much as the toys being bad as us not being the target audience. You gotta make toys appropriate to age and ability, and I think it is safe to say that Hasbro does a phenomenal job at this. Another issue I want to get a little bit deeper into is how the toys look. Normally, it is not a problem. Both robot and alt modes are very pleasant to look at and satisfy our demand for accuracy, but sometimes we opt out to getting third-party toys. Just to be clear, it is not to say that the designers did a horrible job. Absolutely not. It's just that the things that the two of us look specifically for don't always align with what we see. It's more so of a personal opinion. Now let's take a look at another case I think is worth mentioning, Sharkticon Megatron. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a toy that exists. When I first saw it, I was very confused. I was following the Prime cartoon and accompanying comic books very closely, but never saw a single reference to Sharkticon Megatron. I knew Megatron, but what did Sharkticons ever have anything to do with him? It was not until I read the novel Retribution that I finally found out who that was. And turns out that he didn't even spend a long time being exactly that. So ultimately the toy was running on the power of Megatron's name, it seemed. It wasn't so attached to his Prime version as to get the toy. Speaking of riding on the power of the name, let's talk about Bludgeon and Robots in Disguise. There's a character in the cartoon called Blastwave whose mold was used to create Bludgeon toy. He never made an appearance anywhere in the line continuity, and I wasn't familiar with Bludgeon at all, so I couldn't say that I was going to buy him at all. That being said, Bludgeon has indeed become quite a fan favorite, so in a way that did work out pretty well considering he doesn't have a lot of toys of him. At least this gave all the fans invested in him a toy of the beloved character. Before I start wrapping this video up, I want to talk about a pretty big problem I used to have with Hasbro: their distribution. Some toys, I understand, can't quite be shipped in bulk across the border without it costing through the yin-yang, like Metroplex, Trypticon, Fortress Maximus, Unicron, some exclusives or special editions. I get that. It is not easy. The market in Canada is not nearly as big in the USA and presents its own challenges. That being said, there are toys that had absolutely zero reason being so scarce and non-existent on the shelves. When I found out that Punch was getting a toy, I wanted to jump right on top of that. Punch, Counter Punch, is one of my favorite characters, and sure as Optimus Prime coming back to life, I wanted a toy of him, and so did a lot of others. But he came to Amazon as an exclusive in the US. I could not afford to dish out that kind of money. Some toys we have way too many of. The reissue of Generation 1 Optimus Prime is something I would definitely want to add to my collection, but not for $70 plus tax. This is way too much, and almost every Walmart and Toys R Us have so many of them. I do have to say that Hasbro really did start doing a much better job stocking the shelves. It is very obvious from the amount of toys we're getting now. Specifically, I want to use Cyberverse as an example. I know they're moving pretty well, and the shelves no longer end up barren with barely anything on them. Although Walmart can do a better job putting things on their shelves and not price everything so high, just saying. Hasbro Pulse helps me stay informed on what is currently on the market. I would totally buy from there if I had money and space. I want to spend just a minute touching up on the exclusives. I kind of wish there was still a way for me to procure some of those toys, because some of them really are good recolors or retools of the originals. One day I might dedicate a video to those toys specifically. Quick mention about Transformers trading card game and Commandroids. I love the card game made by Wizards of the Coast. I have a good bunch of cards. I'm still learning the rules. I participated in a tournament at TFCon, and I had a blast. It was really fun, and they did a terrific job designing the game. I will eventually make a separate video series about it. Commandroids, while are not a Hasbro project, I still think they are very well worth mentioning, as something like this was never really done before on a commercial scale. I got a taste of it at Transformers Convention at TFCon, and dear goodness, I really wish I had more time. It was such wild, mind-blowing fun. The people were amazing. Just the process of creating our characters was very well worth it. I can't wait to get more into it. I'll be making separate videos about this too. They are currently running a Kickstarter, I think until the end of August or September, I don't quite remember. I'll post a link in the description below. Before I wrap this video up, there's one last thing I absolutely have to talk about. Saving the best for last. Unicron! The new figurine of Unicron is an absolute monster. Not only is it freaking huge at 27 inches tall, it is also really detailed. This is why I find Hasbro to be very inspiring and one of the better entertainment companies out there. Everyone has their shortcomings, and there are tons of videos out there that go on about exactly those, but we can just stop for a minute and appreciate the fact that the company has been pushing design, engineering, and scale on the level of commercial mass production ever since Transformers came to be. 2010's Unicron toy is a must-have. Fortress Maximus was a phenomenal toy, about the Generation 1 issue on the spot. Metroplex and Trypticon were a no-brainer too. I don't have the space for the newer toys of Fortress Maximus, unfortunately, but I can't wait to get my hands on them. The upcoming Unicron toy is by far the single most ambitious project Hasbro has ever attempted. I honestly have no idea how they're going to top that, but I cannot wait to find out. I really wish I had the money to buy him because he would easily be the centerpiece of any collection. When I was writing the script, I realized that I still have third parties to talk about, which I will do in the next episode. Why don't you tell us about which Transformer toys did you like the most or the least? Are there any characters you're always looking out for? or wish there were more toys off? How do you decide which toys to buy? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed my content, leave a like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. I will see you in the next video. Till all are fun.